Hello and welcome to another episode of Daily Reflections. Pastor Sean coming to you from the automotive shop here at Gordon Central. I'm subbing today and have been here for a couple of weeks now. I'm looking at my calendar up here on the desktop, and I'm going to be here for another 3 weeks in the automotive department, subbing in here for at least another 3 weeks, and then we go on vacation to Gulf Shores, and that's going to be a great time. I wanted to talk to you right now very quickly about this past weekend and this upcoming weekend. This past weekend, we had two amazing services. Sunday morning, I preached on what comes out of your mouth. What are you speaking? And I talked about life and death is in the power of the tongue, and I shared the experience of Elisha and the captain of the king's army, and how the king's captain was speaking out negative. He was speaking against God and against the man of God, and how the man of God was speaking blessings into the air, and this guy was, he didn't believe it. He said, even if the God opens up the windows of heaven, what you're saying cannot take place. I've heard that preached at least 2 or 3 times over the last couple of months, and I went ahead and followed the leading of the Lord and put my spin on it, and we had an amazing service. It was a great day. Then last night, Pastor Tim had his prayer and worship service, led the prayer and worship service, and we had a great time. We had a good crowd. We had a lot of people there, a lot of things happening, and then the Spirit started moving right in the middle of the service. The Spirit really started moving, and by the end of the service, people were coming to the altar, being prayed for, being anointed, and receiving their healing and walking in that newness of life. It was a great evening, a great weekend, and I'm believing for greater things. God has been moving and stirring in our church for the last really 4 or 5 weeks. It's been one service after another tied in together, and it's all building toward this coming Sunday. This Sunday is our Back to Church Sunday service, Back to Church Safely Sunday service. We'll be celebrating with Church of God congregations all around our state, and with churches in general all across the country. This is our Back to Church Sunday weekend. We normally do this anyway, but now we've added a little twist to it, Back to Church Safely this Sunday. And so come on out and be a part of what God is doing at Irwin Hill. In the early church, after the day of Pentecost, there was the great outpouring on the day of Pentecost. 3,000 souls added to the church on the day of Pentecost. And then immediately after that, you can read on down through chapter 2, they began building the ecclesia, not a physical building, but the spiritual church. They started building the church, and that word there is ecclesia, which means the gathering. And so they started building this church of believers, and they started gathering people together, and they started doing ministry. They started eating together, fellowshipping. They started eating together. They started fellowshipping. They started studying the lessons that Jesus had taught them. Remember, there's no Bible at this time. Everything is verbally transferred from Jesus to the disciples to the early church. And so they're sharing the stories, they're preaching the gospel, and they're leading people to salvation. They're teaching people about Jesus. They're accepting him as their Savior, as the Messiah. And as they move on, all of these ministries begin to grow. That's where we're at Irwin Hill. We are starting to see our ministries grow. Our children's church, our youth ministry have leadership in there that are starting and growing and building, especially in the youth department. Pastor Eddie's doing a fantastic job of getting the youth room ready, and that ministry is starting up. Pastor Tim is starting a young adult ministry where he's connecting with the young adults in our church, and there's a good-sized group of them. Pastor Patrick is working with our senior adult ministry, and we have a good-sized senior adult ministry as well. So there's a lot of different ministries that are growing and that are moving that you can be involved in. Sister Stephanie and I are taking a group of couples to the mountains in November for a couples retreat, and that's a ministry that we'll be running and starting and getting going over the next few months, a couples ministry. And so there's all kind of things for you to plug in. The Bible tells us that we're to be a part of the church, forsaking not the assembling of yourselves together, especially as you see the day approaching, the day of his return approaching. We need to be plugged in. We need to be involved. And our church is growing. Our church is moving forward. Our church is continuing to see new faces and returning faces, and yours needs to be one of them. This weekend is Back to Church Safely Sunday, and I want to see you at Irwin Hill Church. Coming from the automotive shop here at Gordon Central, just know that I love you. I'm praying for you, and I hope to see you this weekend at Irwin Hill. God bless you as always, is my prayer.